Well, reporters were clamoring for extra time with President Biden, and yesterday, the press secretary raised some eyebrows when she was asked if her boss will take questions from reporters later yesterday. After he spoke, here was her answer.
Might we hear directly from the president about what happened yesterday?
I think you will hear from him on how we're going to get the agenda done.
Will he take questions?
He takes questions multiple times a week, so depends on what you ask. Depends on what you ask.
He takes questions. Depends on what you ask. That's what she said. Here's what he did.
Reverse the travel ban now that Omicron's so prevalent here in the U.S.
Do you believe Senator Manchin kept his word to you? And how do you rebuild trust with progressives in your party to advance your legislation now?
But I'm not supposed to be having this press conference right now.
Would you support staying alone?
So he did go back and forth with some Q&A there. However, when it got to one point, he said he wasn't supposed to be doing that. Does the president have a press problem? The power panel and Focus Now, you just saw them, Matt Schlapp, American Conservative Union Chairman, Kevin Walling, former Biden campaign surrogate. Kevin and Matt, great to see you. So, look, he leaned in, took a couple questions, and then I don't know what happened, Kevin. He got to the point where he disclosed yet again, with a disclaimer, I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah, Harris, I mean, he was joking with the White House press corps. You're always going to have a press corps that is clamoring for more time with the president. We saw it with President Trump. We saw it now with President Biden. They always want more time with the president. They always want more questions before the president. I'm old enough to remember when, the Trump White House didn't have a press briefing with the press secretary for more than a year, and there were huge complaints from the press corps about that. So you're never going to satisfy the press corps.
Okay.
The president took questions, as you rightly pointed out yesterday.
This is about access to the president. And we did not go that long without having access to the president. It was like 24 hours. He talked every time he got on the plane.
It was certainly a lot, but certainly not from the press secretary.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. Matt.
Yeah. Look, the problem with Donald Trump was not that he wouldn't take reporters' questions. The problem a lot of us have with Donald Trump is that he was constantly taking reporters' questions. Matter of fact, you had this almost daily press conferences throughout all of the COVID stress and everything else. So look, the problem is that Kevin, you're going to have your point of view. I'm going to have my point of view. Just look at the polls. More polls came out this morning. People view Joe Biden as not fully up to the job and somehow behind a palace guard of advisors. Jen Psaki, very capable at her job, but in the end, your press secretary cannot answer all the questions that the American people want to hear answers from their president. This is the guy they elected. They want to hear from him, and he's got to be able to go out there on a regular basis, or those numbers are going to continue to tank. He's already only representing about 31% of the American people who believe that he stands for their values and represents them. So, he's got to change this up, Harris. I'm just not sure he can.
So, Kevin, I really want to press in with you, given what Matt has said, and remind everybody that Jen Psaki helped us out because she told us exactly what's going on. He'll take questions if he likes the questions, if they're ones he wants to answer. And so at that point, when you see the verbal pivot from him that we just showed you, where I'm not even supposed to be doing this news conference. The question was about Joe Manchin and the divide. He mumbled, and he didn't want to take any more on that. So, I mean, that is a big, big issue. Started Sunday. He brings up another issue, COVID. Neither one of them he spent very much time on yesterday after his speech.
Well, Harris, I mean, he spoke to the American people directly yesterday about COVID, laying out the plan with the new variant, 500 million
so we shouldn't
tests
have any more
to
questions?
every American household. Again, we hear from the president nearly every day where he provides remarks to the American people about the state of the economy, about the state of COVID. He also answers questions, as he did yesterday. This is a White House that is fully transparent, that answers those questions. Jen Psaki gave a funny response to the question asked about what the topic of the questions would be, just as President Trump had a lot of fun with the White House press corps, joking with them as well. Absolutely, that was a joke. That was a flip remark from the press secretary, just as Donald Trump used to have the same relationship with the press corps as well, Harris.
No, I just have to jump in here. I know you're you're trying to hug Donald Trump for like the first time in modern politics. The reason is because Donald Trump did a lot of things well. One of his best things was he was available for questions, hostile questions, everyone's question. I loved it when he would have these press exchanges and say, does anyone else have a question? Anyone, I'm happy to take it. And the point is with Joe Biden is it's not working. We all know that he won't answer the tough questions, and his poll numbers are tanking because it looks like he won't be candid.
You know, a real difficulty, Kevin, and we'll move on after this, is that when you do have a tough question for the president or for Jim Psaki, sometimes they have different answers. And she'll use the I haven't talked to the president about that line. And it is difficult. Those reporters are reaching some of the same conclusions, not because they work together, not because they sit next to each other, but because they're having similar experiences within press situations. All right, let's move on. Voters may be putting coal in the president's Christmas stocking this year. That's not fun. Well, we just talked about it. Let's go deep. A new poll shows a majority don't think the Biden presidency was good for them and their families. Poll after poll now putting Biden underwater when it comes to the economy, with 54% of Americans not approving of the job he's doing on the issue, worse than Jimmy Carter's numbers in 1978. And that makes sense as inflation rose 6.8% last month, the biggest jump since 1982. Kevin Walling.
Yeah, Harris, we've got to do a better job messaging to the American people. I mean, we're seeing the greatest economic growth in the first year of an administration in 50 years, the better job situation than David Eisenhower or Dwight Eisenhower's term in office, and the greatest GDP growth since Ronald Reagan. But if the American people aren't feeling that and those statistics aren't resonating with their pocketbooks, that's a problem. Now, I'm happy to see that gas prices are down. I was just down in South Carolina last week and saw gas prices around $3.
Okay, scientists are telling me that Omicron may be having an effect on that, this big surge, and that people are not driving as much because they've gone back to working from home. I don't know. I haven't done my own research on that.
I mean, we're seeing record travel. We're seeing record travel for the holiday season. Yeah, we're seeing record travel for the holiday season.
But what you said is you've got to do a better job messaging. You got to do a better job messaging, is what he's saying.
Absolutely, we do.
So that people feel something different. I think people would rather they just fix the problem of rising inflation. Don't preach to them about it. Just fix it. What do you say, Matt?
Look, the reason why the balanced budget disaster went down was because it wanted to fund a lot more IRS agents. It wanted to implement aspects of the Green New Deal, which would make gas prices and food prices even more expensive. It wanted to give aid to people who just recently crossed the border illegally. This socialism, I know it sounds like it's compassionate, but it's wrecking the lives of ordinary people, and it's very unpopular.
Kevin, just real quickly, because I want to give you a chance to respond. So if look, put everything else aside and gas prices go back up suddenly after Omicron, either flattens out or whatever it does, what is your answer back on that? Or do you think that gas prices are going to continue to go down?
Well, Harris, your point is exactly right. I mean, there are factors out there outside of the control of the president, whether it be Donald Trump, whether it be Ronald Reagan, whether it be Joe Biden with regards to costs and supply. They're not president right now, but you rightly strike out the point that there are factors out of the control of this president that drive a lot of issues with regards to costs. And this administration is working overtime. The shelves are stocked for this Christmas season. Packages are arriving on time by the Postal Service. Matt and his 5 girls are going to have a lot of presents under that tree with Mercy just come later this week. And that should be applauded by this administration.
Let me just say one thing. Why does his Secretary of Energy say we have to get used to these higher prices? This is intentional policy to get us off fossil fuels, and it hurts like hell for people who have to fill their tank and go to work.
You know who doesn't like it? Joe Manchin, Coal Country, West Virginia. Oh, his name just keeps coming up. I know that hurts Democrats, but we got to go. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Harris.
Crime. Absolutely. Merry Christmas to you, too.